And we begin. Um, so, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the second meeting of the GMC Film Club. I request everybody to keep themselves on mute for the time being, and then we can start. All right. So, I'm Ashwin, and yeah, I will be the host come chair for the meeting. And my co-host, like last time, will be Anish. And we have all the rest of our regulars here today. So welcome one and all. And as we saw earlier, the film we chose for this week was The Pianist. And yeah, so we're currently doing all the films which are kind of freely available online because of lockdown, and until we find a proper solution to screen films. So this is what we're doing. Right. So The Pianist is a 2002 film directed by Roman Polanski, and starring oh my god, starring Adrian. What's his surname? Why am I forgetting this? Adrian
Brody.
Brody. Right. I'm so sorry. Yeah, starring Adrian Brody. Right. So this film was based on the book of the same name by Vladislav Spielman, and yeah, and it also has a lot of influence from the director himself, Roman Polanski, who was himself a survivor of the Holocaust. So the whole movie is actually a combination of the experiences and interpretation of Roman himself, along with the book, right? And what Roman tried to do in this film was he tried to stay as true to the book as he could. So the book was an autobiography, and that's why we have the book itself. The book itself was subtitled "The Extraordinary Story of One Man's Survival in Warsaw." And I think we can see that very clearly in the film, because the film is not your typical Holocaust film where it shows the struggles of the Jews and the German invasion and the war and the camps. It showed almost none of that. But it just focused on the survival of one man and was basically the autobiography of one man. And that's why we can, the movie is very autobiography like, right? It's like a documentary, because we don't see a clear passage of time. We don't see a day passing, or we between two scenes we don't really know how much time has passed. It's just documenting scenes from a person's life. It's very like an autobiography or a diary, and that's what we see represented very beautifully in the movie. So it is not really a commentary on the Holocaust. It is more the story of the survival of one man. So I'd like maybe Anish to just start us off. Could you say a few words about the movie, and before we move on to a proper discussion, what do you
Yeah.
think?
So the pianist is quite different from the other Holocaust movies or the movies of that genre because, like Ashwin mentioned, it focuses more on the personal or like the personal accounts of a family, and it has a diverse, it caters to a diverse audience. It starts off with a bit of comedy. It doesn't start off on such a emotional with a high emotional quotient. It's some of comedy, and this story slowly moves in, and as we go deeper into the movie, the true emotions come out, and the ending also has been quite emotional. So yes, looking forward to hearing on what others felt about it.
Yeah, precisely, Anish. So it's actually the story of a man. So and the development of the man, and I think that's exactly what it's about. How he went from being a carefree man to a sullen survivor by the end of it. And yeah, I think that's what the movie is all about. So I'm going to be a bit more rapid here than we did last time with Anand, because we could talk a lot about that. But this being a long movie and has a lot of detail, I think we should talk about that before opening the floor for general discussion, right? So one of the first things I want to talk about is the cinematography and the photography. And the most beautiful thing about this movie was the color palette. And what we observe in this movie, the variation in the color palette. So we can see in the beginning of the movie, I think I have a picture here. Yes, in this particular scene, Look at the vivid colors, look at the light, look at the browns, the reds, the yellows in the picture, right? You can look how vibrant the picture is. And it's basically a scene of joy, a scene of happiness, in this is the stage of Spielman's life where he's still the easygoing, aloof man. He's like enjoying. Hey, everything's going to be fine. I am a great pianist, and nothing can happen to me. Everybody's on our side. France is fighting. England's coming. Nobody's good. The German invasion is going to stop. And this is what the scene is showing us, right? It's just showing us a vibrance. But as the movie progresses, we see grays, we see washed out scenes, we don't see color, we see just grays and reds maybe, and we don't see vibrance. So it kind of shows the essence of the human, the joy of the human being drained out. It's sucking his life. I think I have yeah, look at this scene here. So contrasting, so contrasting. Look at this and look at this. I think this is the beauty of a good cinematographer. Just by adjusting the color palette, he makes us feel a message. Even though if we don't analyze it, we won't even notice this. But because we analyze it, we see the subtle difference. We see how a change in the color palette can change so much for us. And just by watching the movie, we feel different things when we see this and we see this. So it's influencing our emotion. I think that's something very beautiful about the cinematography. And a second thing was, yeah, precisely, the saturation decreases as the movie progresses, because I told you the life is being sucked out of him. Look at his eyes, look at the scene here, and look at the liveliness of these characters, right? Precisely. Right. And another beautiful thing I saw about these scenes was, I'm sorry, I don't have a picture to represent this, but one of the beautiful things we could see in this movie is that it was centered around one man. So the backgrounds were usually almost invisible. If you try to recollect, you won't remember what was going on in the background. You'll remember the man, the acting, what Brody was doing in the scene. You don't remember the background of the scene. And that's another beautiful thing about the cinematography, is how they made the scene invisible, but the actor visible. And that's the beauty of filming an autobiography. If you do it right, it becomes about the person, not the scene. I think that was something else which was really beautiful in the movie. Does anybody have something to contribute about the cinematography? Something you noticed? Anyone? One person? And we can move on. Just start speaking, or I'll move on, because we do have a lengthy session today. Okay, I think.
Hello.
Yeah. Go ahead, Shrish.
Yeah, thanks, Ashwin. So I noticed when you showed these pictures, if you see clearly in the first picture where they are representing joy, in the background we see darkness.
Yes.
In the next picture, you see a slight sunlight falling on the face.
Yes.
It's represent darkness coming and hopefully hope coming in the coming scenes.
I think that's a great observation, Shreesh, because in the first scenes, we see a contrast, meaning the foreground is bright and the backgrounds are dark, showing the joy and approaching darkness. While here we see darkness with a ray of joy. I think it's a very beautiful observation, Shreesh. And thank you for bringing that to light. Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
So now another thing I want to talk about is the gorgeous set design. Beautiful set design. So when Roman was filming the film, he actually went to Warsaw to film it. But the problem with that is, after the war, Warsaw was completely rubble. There was nothing left of the city and was rebuilt. There was one section of the city which was captured by the Russians and was held by them, and it was under the communist regime for a long time. And that one particular section of the city rather, was still very dilapidated in its original state. And that's where they shot a lot of the scenes in the movie. That street where he lived on with the hospital opposite him, that was one of those streets which was preserved from that time. So I just want to show you the beauty of the set design. Look how intricate, look at the detail in the scenes. And I think this is something to be appreciated, honestly. This was a long before we had major CGI come in. This is long before we had, you could just put a Panzer tank in there by just pressing a few buttons, drawing on the computer, editing it, and have a team of software engineers who draw for you. But I'm sorry, who draw for you, but rather here it was actually built, and I think that's gorgeous, and it has to be appreciated. The detail, the sheer detail. But another thing I noticed in the film is perspective when it came to the sets. And the particular thing I want to bring to light here is windows. Windows. Windows are so essential to this movie, extremely essential, and it helps build the perspective. I want to show you a string of images here, and then I'll tell you what I interpreted from these windows, and maybe one of you can chip in as well. So look at this particular scene. Look how you observe it through a window, or this scene looking out a window into the world, again looking out of the window into the world outside, and the family looking out of the window. So how do we interpret this? When I saw this in the movie, what I thought was it showed how man in general was imprisoned. You know, he's locked up in the room. Whether you talk about man in general or Spielman in that particular, or a Jew for that matter, how they were so cloistered, so locked up, you know, in the closet rather, and they were looking at a world they could aspire for. You know, they wanted that. The world was outside. What they wanted, they could see what they wanted outside was within their sight, but not within their grasp. You know, and this is what I thought the importance of windows. Like this particular scene, I found was like this didn't represent hope outside the window, but it represented evil outside the window. They could look through the window and see that family being killed, see the man being thrown out of the building. Danger is so close, yet it just escapes them by the skin of their teeth. You know, they just escape danger rather by the skin of their teeth. And I think this was something extremely beautiful in the movie. Does anybody have something to say about this? The windows and the perspective in the movie. Anybody?
I agree with,
Yeah,
Ashwin, yeah.
Anish?
So I agree with what you said about the windows, having contrasting themes in the movie. On one hand, they serve as the only medium of interaction for the family when they are hiding in flats, when they're moving from one place to another. Like they aspire to live a free world, and the windows is the guide, or is something that lets them have some sense of connect with the outside world. But at the same time, it has also been used in the evil sense, when the man on the wheelchair was thrown out of the window. So it's he's the filmmakers have really managed to put across contrasting themes and use the window really well.
Yeah, and I think this is also a good way to represent the world, right? So the world outside you is both a great place and a scary place at the same time. Thank you, Anish. That was a beautiful point you brought forward. And finally, I had this particular picture, which I wanted to show you, is the camera angle often used is called a bird's eye, not a bird's eye view, a fly on the wall view, a fly's eye view. And that's something we use in art and in cinematography, where the perspective is as if you're a fly on the wall and you see the street or you see the object or you see the scene in front of you. And I think this represents how man is an observer, right? How Spielman here is the observer. He's not necessarily affected directly by the scenes, but he's observing events and he's observing history transpire around him. I think that's very similar in all our lives, right? How we see history happening around us, and we're not really able to influence it. Like a lot of the times in the movie, he says that, "Hey, I want to go fight too," or something like that, you know, on those lines. Or other characters themselves have said, "Why should we Jews keep quiet? We outnumber them. We can take them on. You know, we can break out this ghetto." And I think this fly's eye view also represents that. It represents perspective of being there, being able to see events, but not being able to influence events, right? I think that's another thing to that we can take away from this particular camera. Yeah. Okay. The next point, and I'd like a bit of discussion on this, so I'll open the floor to a lot of people, but I'll put forward a point here. I think this whole movie is a story of humanity. It shows that every character in this movie, rather every character type in this movie, I'd say, is both good and bad. And I think it shows us that there's good and bad in everybody. because we see some good Jews, we see bad Jews, we see good Poles and bad Poles, we see good Germans and bad Germans, right? In the whole movie, we see the Jews who are helpless in one scene and dancing about because the German people are prodding them with their guns and bayonets. But in the other scene, we see Jews themselves forming their militia to serve the German army, just to maybe survive for 5 more days or maybe 5 months. So we have Jews who'd sell out their own men, but otherwise we have Jews who are revolutionary, right? Who want to have a rebellion, who actually fight back in that one scene and who are killed, and even Poles. We see in the beginning, we see one of those Poles who is ripping them off for that piano. He said, "Yeah, you take the 2,000 and go away. I mean, you're not going to get a better price anyway." He's basically robbing them. But on the other hand, we see so many Poles who are merciful to him, who gave him that work permit, who gave him shelter and food. And I think I found that a very good contrast. And same with Germans. We saw the German army and the German soldiers who are torturing those people by making them dance. But on the other hand, at the end of the movie, we see a German who's so awed by Spielman that he basically has compassion on him, gives him lavish food, and keeps him alive till the end of the war. So guys, I would like one of you to give your perspective on this. Maybe Diksha can start if you're okay with this, and then we can move on to Aditya or someone. Go ahead, Diksha.
Yeah. So I think the other human thing I really noticed in the movie was the instinct for survival, because he fought so hard through the troubling times. I mean, it would be very easy for someone to just give up and like piss off a German and just like get shot, because that would be the end of their misery. But he continued, he had faith, and he said, okay, you know what, good times are coming. I will fight hard, even though I have to be alone for so long. And you can also see, like, Adrian Brody has acted so well. You can see him losing his weight and, becoming all miserable and all scrawny and thin and stuff. So I think it was really good acting.
Guys, just make sure you're muted. Yeah, thank you. All right, go ahead.
Yeah. And it was just really good acting. And also the instinct for survival was so strong and was really well portrayed.
Yeah. Okay, before we go to Adrian Brody himself, can we talk about the supporting characters? Maybe Aditya, do you want to say a few words about the supporting characters? Like we saw, what's his name here? Isaac Heller. This is Isaac Heller here. And we saw this Polish businessman, and we saw the German soldiers. So Aditya, do you have some perspective you want to bring on the characters in the film, especially with respect to some of them being good and evil, and not exactly how we stereotypically see Germans or Jews or Poles? Is Aditya there?
Yeah, when you spoke about the... Hello?
Yeah, go ahead. We can hear you. Yeah, Adi, we can hear you. Go ahead.
So, like, when you're talking about the duality, so when you're talking about the duality of humans, so like,
I think we're losing
that one.
Okay, Aditya, I think we're losing you. I don't think your connection is too great. Is it okay if we move on to another person, because we can't really hear you?
And
yeah, okay, go ahead, Mithila. Sure, please go ahead.
Hi. Okay, so I wanted to point out about that one character who first comes and offers them the police job, and then he also he once after he everybody rejects his offer, he turns kind of brutal or impassive towards I mean, like, he doesn't care about Spilsman and his family. But later on, he pulls out Spilsman because he was popular, and so just so that he can escape from death. So it kind of explains, puts shade on his duality. Like he wants to save some people, like he wants to save people, but at the same time he wants to save himself from dying or anything like that. So it's like he's good as well as he's bad.
Yeah, precisely the point I was bringing forward. Yeah. Anybody else? Do you have
Yeah.
do you have something to contribute here? Anyone else? Yeah, go ahead, Neil. Sure, please.
Yeah, so it's been a while since I've watched this movie, and I couldn't rewatch it because of this volunteering thing and all. But I really like this one thing, one emotion that they show is that this war is a political game. You know, it in the individual level, each and every person has a different perspective of it, has a different view about it, and this I feel they've shown really well at the end where that guy gives him that jam and bread when Adrian Brody stuck in that house, and he gives him that, and he remembers that. And once the war is over, and when once he's completely back to normal, and someone tells him about that guy, he goes there to search for him.
Yes. Yes.
And I feel that's really beautifully shown. I feel in this movie, I feel that one scene for me made the movie for me.
Yeah, I think you're right, Neil. So I think to sum up what everybody has said here, and I think the same point I was trying to drive home was that each person is an individual. It's really hard to stereotype somebody as German so evil, and Pole so impassive, and Jew so victim. It's so difficult. I think everybody was doing what they could in their means. I think that's what we saw by the end of the movie. Everybody did the best they could in their means. I think the Isaac Heller, that militia guy who first, like Mithila said, he came to their home and offered them the job. And I think he did love the family a lot. He did respect the family a lot, because the first time he came and offered them the job, they said, no, I'm never sending out my own men. The second time, remember when his brother was brother was Hans? I don't remember. Anyway, when his brother had got taken in by the police, the Spielman just went and asked him, and Heller released the man. And for the third time, we can see when Heller saves his life in the train scene. I think this scene was so beautiful. This scene, yeah, Henrik, precisely at the time, Henrik, yeah. So when Henrik was captured, we saw that Heller came and just pushed him out and says, go, don't bother me anymore, just go and take your brother and go, keep him out of trouble. I think that was really cool, because you can see that even though he wanted the best for his friends and countrymen, he still was doing his best to survive. It was survival of the fittest, literally. So yeah, that's what we can take away from the supporting characters. I think that's really important to see the duality of man for one, and just individualism everywhere. No two characters were the same, even though it was focused around one man. It's very easy to blend all the characters around, but no, each character had its own personality, and I think that was really beautiful. I think this particular scene where Heller saved him, I think it's a good segue into the final section of our discussion, which is the direction and acting. And this particular scene where he tells him, don't run, just walk. This is actually from an incident in Roman's life. Roman Polanski himself, when he was in the ghetto and he was escaping, somebody yelled out at him, don't run, walk, because if you run, you look suspicious, they'll shoot you. It's from his own life, and he incorporated that in the movie. And I think that's the beauty of the direction, because Roman was feeling it. So Steven Spielberg, who produced Schindler's List, actually wanted Roman to direct Schindler's List, which didn't happen because Roman was said, no, this movie is making me too traumatized. It's bringing back bad memories. But when Roman saw the book and read the book, and he thought, yeah, this is a film I have to make. I relate so much to this film. This is my story too. And I think we can see a lot of scenes incorporated into this. Like throughout the film, we can see flashbacks to photographs and to small clips of Poland at that time, of Warsaw at that time. And we can see those clips transition into the set. And that shows another brilliant work done by the set builders who managed to take those images and videos and make sets out of them. But I think it shows how real the movie was, how extremely real the movie was. It isn't a fantastic story. It's a history book. It's an autobiography. I think that's what you see in the direction, Neil says they shown in the war, love your country. Yeah, go ahead, Mithila, please. I'll just read out what Neil has said.
No, it was a mistake. My bad.
All right, cool. Yeah, precisely, Neil. I think you've just summed up what we had said in the previous day. Okay, we have 10 minutes more in the meeting, so I'll just speed up a bit. The next thing I want to bring out is the importance of family in this movie. So we see, all right, this is another scene, I think, which is actually from Roman's life. He said that when he was walking through the ghetto, one thing he vividly remembered was broken pillows and broken quilts and feathers everywhere and broken furniture. I think this one of the most powerful scenes from the movie was only so powerful because it was almost exactly reproduced from a person's memory and person's life and personal experience. And this scene it probably brought me to tears the first time I saw the movie, right? The sheer grief and the sheer hopelessness of his situation. And yeah, I think that could only come from personal experience, right? You can't bring that if you don't feel it. I think Roman felt this, and that's how you'll be able to translate it so well here. But yeah, so like I said, I wanted to point out the importance of family in this movie, how family is so central to this movie. And again, it's a throwback to Roman's life. So Roman saw his mother being taken away and burnt in the Holocaust, in the gas chambers, not burnt, he was killed in the gas chambers in one of the camps. And Roman says that, and I quote Roman saying, there is no greater pain. There is no greater pain than losing family. The pain from losing family is greater than any injury and disease. And I found that really beautiful, I think Roman translated that so beautifully here, how through all these times when it was so uncertain, people were being lifted up from their homes. I think the loss of family was one of the greatest pains they suffered. Bullets was different. Illness and sickness and hunger were different. But loss of family was very central to the movie. I think we can see this particular scene where she's crying and said, why did I do it? Why did I do it? Why did I kill my baby? Baby was crying. They almost lost their lives and she had to smother the baby. Whether she wanted to kill it or just silence it, or she maybe didn't want the baby to grow up in a world of pain. And she cries, why did I do it? And she can't think of anything else, just the loss of a baby. I think that's so powerful. That can only come from feeling and understanding what it was like at that time. Why did I do it? Why did I let go of my family? Why did I run away alone? I could have saved one person. I could have saved two people. I think that's something so powerful in this movie. And I don't know how else we could have, how better you could portray the loss of family. And precisely, Utkarsh, it's survival instinct. And because of sheer survival, he just smothered the baby. She just smothered the baby. But look at the remorse. And yeah, Spielman himself said that, Mithila says that Spielman himself said it was most difficult to him to comprehend mother's death, and that his death would be the closure of her. Precisely, exactly. And another scene which is I found really important about family is that when he's walking with his sister and he tells her, I wish I knew you better. And I found that so powerful because we have so little time with our family. And in that last moment he had with his sister, that was leading up to the moment where they get separated. And he manages to convey that, hey, I might lose you now. And I wish I knew you better. I wish I spent more time with you, my family. I think that's so powerful. But another thing I want to say is how when he lost his family, how he filled that void with music. I'm trying to go a bit quick here because we're running out of time. He filled that void with music, and he took that to almost a delusional level. He was delusional. He was probably hallucinating. He was sitting in his chair and just playing his fingers in the air, and he was hearing the sounds in his head, and that's what kept him alive. His music. That's what kept him alive. In the train, when he was standing there and just holding that banister, and his fingers were still, playing away on notes in his head. And I found that extremely powerful. When he saw the piano, he was so close. He was so close to hearing music again. But he couldn't. He couldn't play the note because that would mean his death. Imagine loving something as much as your family, probably more, and then finally not being able to interact with it and love it. And that's, I found that so heartbreaking, you know? And I think this shows a great transformation in his personality. How he starts off in the beginning being a completely aloof, like I own the world, I'm probably the best. The women come up to me and talk me up, and I can probably get the woman. And you know, he's so cocky, and he said, "Hey, where have you been hiding a sister from me for so long?" He's so cocky. He thinks he's king of the world, but by the end of it, he's so broken. He's so empty. He has nothing in his soul anymore, but that memory of the sound of music, and that's what kept him going. It kept him going until the end of the movie, when I think the movie closed up really beautifully. It closed off with him playing Chopin, and he's sitting in the middle of the orchestra where he dreamed he would be, where he felt most at home. He has no family left. He has only music. Music is his new family. Music is his new soul. Everything was taken from him: his life, his energy, his body, his family, everybody he knew. Not even everybody loved, everybody he knew, his life. Everything was taken away from him. But music remained in him, and music is his soul now. It's his family now. And I think this is by we can end by saying that this is a movie of optimism. This is a movie, even though it's a depressing movie, it's a sad movie, it makes us all cry and break down. It's a movie of optimism. We can see the color palette change again. We can see the bright, vibrant yellows and browns, and the color coming back, because it's the hope is back. He lived, he survived. I think that's amazing. That's how it's perfect closure for the story. It's like the hope is back just by that color in the background, you know, hope is back. And I think we can, another way to end the, like another message we can take about the movie is sympathy. I think sympathy is so essential here. uh, yes, exactly, it's so almost unimaginable that this stuff happened in real life. But the last point about sympathy I want to bring up is, a lot of people say that they survived because of luck and sympathy, and I think that is true. He had sympathy of Heller, sympathy of that man who pulled him under that false, the false flooring. He has sympathy of all the Poles who housed him. He had sympathy of the German in the end. I think sympathy, empathy, and compassion are what make this film optimistic. In a film which was depressing, in a film which was sad, in a film which was probably, it's about the Holocaust. How can you make a happy film about the Holocaust? Normally the happiness just comes from the closure at the end. But I think the happiness in the movie, I wouldn't say happiness. I think even, yeah, exactly. The officer, who he went searching, like Neil said earlier, he went searching for that officer who saved him, right? I think it's a film of optimism in the end, It's not a pessimistic film. It's not a pessimistic documentary saying that, hey, the Germans are horrible. These are atrocities they committed. This is how bad they were. And this is what humans really are. Humans are inherently evil. Or the humans have a duality. Some are extremely good, the rest are horrible people. But that's not really true. It's a film of optimism. It's a film of hope. It's a film of compassion. And it's a film of joy. And because the pure joy of survival, the pure joy of losing everything, but then finally finding closure, finding that music in your soul. I have 24 seconds left in the movie. So I think I'll close off. I would have loved to open the floor to everybody to discuss, but maybe we can continue this on the group, or maybe we can have another Zoom meeting after this. I really don't mind. We can do another session where we can everybody just talk. I think we'll do that. I'll put on a new meeting and we can talk. I think I'll close this meeting now. This is everything I had about the movie, and thank you all for coming and joining me today. I hope you all enjoyed the movie, and thanks for being part of our film club in GMC. And I hope this becomes a roaring success and we do more and more like this. Thanks, guys.